insights. Our next presentation, we have Mr. Hiroshi Komori, Senior Director, Stewardship and ESG, Public Market Investment, Government Pension Investment Fund, or GPIF from Japan, and he'll be talking about GPIF's ESG investment and stewardship activity. So over to Hiroshi-san.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone from Tokyo. My name is Hiroshi Komori of GPIF in Japan. I very much appreciate the great invite today by the Global Compact Network Malaysia for me to present GPIF's ESG and stewardship activities at Go ESG ASEAN Summit 2020. I'd be very happy to talk about our holistic perception and investment related with ESG today. We are a textbook-style universal asset owner with AUM about 1.6 trillion US dollars as of September 2020. Roughly speaking, it is equally allocated to 4 asset classes: Japanese equity, Japanese bonds, foreign equity, and foreign bonds in a model portfolio allocation. Also, we are a cross-generational asset owner with a super long-term horizon as long as 100 years. In this perspective, it is critically important for GPIF to consider ESG for a long-term investment to realize sustainable return for future generations of our beneficiaries. At the same time, GPIF is a unique asset owner in a global market because of not only our AUM, but our legal framework, which prohibits us from making direct influence to the markets and investee companies in our portfolio. Therefore, we 100% delegate our investment decision to our asset managers, including selection and divestment of companies and stewardship activities, namely engagement and proxy voting. In this perspective, communication and engagement with our asset managers throughout the year proves indispensable for us to let them fully and rightly understand our mission, purpose, and journey. With that, I'd like to explain our concept towards ESG since we became a signatory of Japan's Stewardship Code in May 2014 and of PRI in September 2015. Because of our legal binding, we believe we are not at liberty to talk about one specific ESG issue, such as climate change, although we completely agree it is so. Therefore, we do survey to our equity asset managers in December every year since 2016, asking which ESG issue is material in their portfolio. I'll show you the slide. This slide shows you the results in December 2019, before COVID-19 crisis. In the 2 categories on the right, you can see answers from passive and active managers of foreign equities. Climate change was chosen by all asset managers there. Then, following climate change, diversity and disclosure came up, and they were further followed by corporate governance, supply chain, board structure, water supply, human rights, etc. Perhaps you can remember the ESG discussions in the global market last year, and those answers from asset managers can be shared by many of you. On the other hand, Japanese equity shows you a little different situations. On the left, you see the results from passive and active Japanese equity managers. At active side, board structure and self-evaluation came up as a top issue. Those were the points highlighted by the Japanese Corporate Governance Code discussion. Capital efficiency and misconduct followed. At passive side, just like foreign equity, climate change and disclosure ranked at top. We are often asked like this: which of E, S, or G is most important for GPIF? Again, we have to be careful to answer this kind of question because of a legal binding. But we can say that in order to make E and S work appropriately and efficiently in a cross-generational time horizon, G must be a pillar for E and S. This survey exactly gave us a long-term view of our asset managers. Probably most of you or all of you agree that climate change is number one issue in the globe at the moment. Our asset managers of foreign equity also picked up diversity and disclosure, followed by supply chain, water supply, human rights, and so on. This proved for GPIF to be a great view and insight of our global asset managers, what has been going on outside Japan. By contrast, Japan is now to catch up the global discussions where our asset managers gave us their view that G is still critical in Japanese equity portfolio. We very much appreciate their great input and feedback to us. Having said that, it was a result of survey 1 year ago. We will do the same questionnaire next month to see what long-term investors need to cope with in this unprecedented difficult situation, COVID-19. We've been discussing with our asset managers since April this year, just after the Japanese government declared the emergency. All of them stress that climate change should be focused on with top priority, even with COVID-19, which we also agree with. While diversity and disclosure remain the same as 1 year before, we found that our asset manager came to talk about diversity more. I mean, diversity covers not only gender, but ethnicity, ages, skill set, etc., to activate the company's resilience and growth. We also understand the current situation where another issue, employees and their safety as well as health, should be taken care of. We look forward to our next survey. At this stage, we don't expect any big change in the result. However, I believe we need to have meetings with asset managers one by one, hopefully in person or virtually, to learn their views and deepen our understanding behind their answers. And next slide shows you our participation in several global initiatives. I would say that our global peers, such as Carsters in the US, Norges Bank Investment Management, other asset owners in Europe and UK, are much more active with initiatives globally. But because of our binding, the purpose of those participation is mainly to collect information and knowledge on what is going on in the global ESG discussions, rather than directly engage with companies and influence the market. I can stress that PRI is the center of our participation. We are members of several asset owners committees on ESG and SDGs, and I myself work as a chair of Japan Network Advisory Committee here. We are very proud of our membership of PRI, where we enjoy great benefits, such as publishing, which covers ESG, SDGs, ESG integration, stewardship across most of our classes from equity, fixed income bonds, and alternatives. Unfortunately, PRI in person, which was scheduled to be held in Tokyo September this year, was postponed because of COVID-19 issues to September next year, 2021. We look forward to seeing you in Tokyo then. PRI in person has been a great opportunity for us to catch up latest ESG discussions and learn deep insights on each ESG issue through valuable networking with global signatories. Additionally, we participated in TCFD and Climate Action 100 Plus initiatives in 2018 to catch up climate change discussions and to sophisticate our TCFD-based analysis and scenario towards 2 degrees and 1.5 degrees target of Paris Accord. One more purpose was to watch how asset managers would behave and engage with companies on the list. As a Japanese asset owner, we are proud that 10 Japanese companies have been listed by the Climate Action 100% initiatives. This is a reflection of Japanese companies' presence right now in the global economy and very possible contribution by them to challenge the global climate change risk with great innovation and technologies going forward. On the right hand, you can see our participation in the diversity issue. I am not myself sure about the today's diversity discussions in Malaysia and other Southeast Asian countries. We are not in a position to directly engage with companies, but as our asset managers indicated, diversity is one of our focal points for our long-term investment. We are now following the UK, US, and Japan, participating 30% of UK and Japan, and 30% coalition in the US. This is the issue which has a great variety of discussions locally and globally. Just in Asia, each country has its own culture, history, and government role on diversity issues, and because of COVID-19 pandemic, diversity has been spreading first with more diversity from gender to ethnicity, ages, and colors. Council of Institutional Investors, CII, in Washington, D.C., and the International Corporate Governance Network, ICGN, in London have been great resources for us to follow what is going on exactly as of today in the US and the globe. Originally, they were established by asset owners and asset managers 35 years and 25 years ago, respectively, to pursue corporate governance matters mainly. But because of a very fast changing ESG discussions today in the globe, they have been very much flexible with today's discussions and investment. Based on governance, G, they are trying to increase value added for their members. Their conferences, held twice or three, 4 times a year, have been a great opportunity to make networking with global peers, asset managers, ESG researchers, ESG index providers, ESG voting advisors, NGOs, etc. Next slide. I'd like to touch on ESG indices we started in 2017. Next slide, please. We've got 5 indices with a total investment of about 55 billion US dollars as of March 2020. There are 2 general type indices and 1 thematic diversity index for Japanese equities, and also 2 carbon efficient indexes, one for Japanese and the other one for global equity. Also, we started an index posting system on our website to gather ESG index information and methodology to enhance our ESG index knowledge and assessment capability. This is a big challenge and experiment for GPIF ourselves to certify whether ESG indices would work or not in the long term. Fortunately, very fortunately, the total return of the total 5 indices outperformed benchmarks for the past 2 years. However, I have to say that we know that it is very early to conclude they worked well. We need to wait another 5 to 10 years and watch their performance and analyze real factor for returns. Finally, let me talk about the relationship between PRI and the Global Compact Network. In our view, PRI is the other side mirror of the Global Compact Network, respectively for investors and companies. That's why we've got good contact with the Global Compact Network Japan. They gave us several opportunities for me to speak out to their members on ESG. 2 years ago, I explained how investors had been struggling as well, how to integrate ESG into their investment and portfolio. I would say that the situation had not changed so much even as of today. We found the definition of ESG differed region by region, country by country, and there are more than 300 disclosure principles for the companies, and they are now increasing. You probably know that IFRS is now in the period of consultation, how it should integrate ESG disclosure. ESG is still on the way for companies to increase their shareholder value on the long term. Perhaps you'd find out a partner investor for your journey to fulfill your company's fiduciary duty to shareholders and a purpose for your stakeholders as well. We don't expect something valuable from the template superficial discussion such as stakeholder capitalism versus shareholder capitalism, because in the long run, both head for the same direction to realize long-term sustainable profits for stakeholders, including shareholders. ESG already means long-term investment for companies and for investors as well. But the thing is, each sector and each company has its own ESG issue. Therefore, I can say that it is important for the company to keep and improve disclosure of its own material ESG risks and opportunities to investors. And then you can keep good discussions with your long-term investor as a kind of partner to improve your ESG disclosures for your appropriate shareholder value in the long run. I know that materiality is a new kind word for companies which may cause often confusion in a disclosure. Which ESG issue can be called material or not? The answer from long-term investors, including GPIF, is that you first pick up any possible ESG risks and opportunities by yourself, and then analyze which one influence your balance sheet and profit and loss in the long term and short term, mid term. You need to understand that the way of thinking of long-term investors, for the long-term investors, long-term profit is accumulation of short-term profit and mid-term profit. So therefore, with that, you can share the same time universe or same time horizon with your long-term investors together. I think I stop here, and I hope my presentation today would be of any support to you when you decide to pursue your long journey with your shareholders. Thank you very much indeed for your attention, and Go ESG Summit 2020 goes successfully. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Thank you, Komori-san, for sharing. And we'll be taking a lunch break for about 1.5 hours. Do take the time to visit the virtual exhibition if you haven't done so already. We'll return at 2 p.m. Malaysia time for the parallel sessions. There'll be 3 parallel sessions covering topics from managing sustainable strategies, raising ambitions, and the role of finance in sustainability. So you can use the same token pass and click on the broadcast studio tabs to join the ones most relevant to you, and look for the attendance back here at 2 p.m. Malaysian time. So in the meantime, enjoy your lunch. Thank you.